Very, very good to have you join with me tonight. It is it can sometimes not always be the easiest to, on a day that's a national holiday, and it also happens to be Shabbat. Not everybody, can make it out on a Friday night, but it's great to be able to pray with you this evening. Let me say once again, Shabbat Shalom. Parshat Vay'chi wraps up the book of Genesis with the peaceful passing of Jacob and Joseph. Yet it still manages to have a little drama. After their father's death, even though many years have passed, Joseph's brothers still feared retribution. They come to Joseph and they tell him that with his dying breath, Jacob just wanted to make sure that Joseph would forgive his brothers. Now, according to most commentators, since the Torah doesn't tell us about this, the brothers were probably lying. And Joseph probably knew that they were lying. And still, Joseph responds with compassion. In Genesis chapter 50, he tells them, "Have no fear. Am I a substitute for God? Although you intended me harm, God intended it for good, the survival of many people. And so fear not, I will sustain you and your children." This is striking because in a book that is so filled with family rivalry and strife, right? Think about Cain and Abel, Isaac and Ishmael, Jacob and Esau, and of course, Joseph and his brothers. The book of Genesis ends with forgiveness and reconciliation. From this perspective, the lesson of Bereshit, the lesson of the book of Genesis, is that we can change for the better. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be for a blessing, teaches that this idea was revolutionary in the ancient world. He argues that prior to our Bible, time was thought of as an eternal pattern where nothing actually changed: birth, growth, decline, death, and repeats. It was an endless cycle. And now we do have such ideas in the Tanakh. In Ecclesiastes, it repeatedly mentions that there is, quote, nothing new under the sun, just an endless cycle. But on the whole, the Tanakh offers something radically different. Rabbi Sacks writes, "For the first time, people began to conceive that God had created the universe in freedom, and that by making man in his image," again, we would expand this a little bit, make it a little bit more gender friendly, but these are Rabbi Sacks's words. By making man in his image, he endowed him too with freedom. That being so, he might be different tomorrow from what he was today. And if he could change himself, he could begin to change the world. So when Joseph looks back on his life, he could have seen a cycle of pain and retribution where he now has the power, and so he gets to have the last laugh. Instead, he chooses to focus on teshuvah, on repentance. He focuses on the capacity for change within himself and his brothers. He chooses to reject vengeance and embrace forgiveness. The choice of Joseph and our biblical authors transforms the narrative of Torah from an endless loop that's on repeat into the narrative of change and redemption. In spite of the challenges of the past, the Torah teaches us that the future can look different. After betrayal and slavery and prison, Joseph found peace, letting us know that regardless of what we have been going through, eventually we too can find peace. Our rabbis take this powerful teaching and add an exclamation mark. At the end of each book of Torah, we conclude with the words, Chazak, Chazak, v'nit chazek, be strong, and let us strengthen each other. Our rabbis understood that Joseph's choice is not always easy. We can't always see beyond the narrative of pain. We can't always choose forgiveness or understanding. We can't always see the possibility of redemption. So we say, Chazak, Chazak, v'nit chazek. There are times when we need to lean on others. And there are times when family, friends, and community can lean on us. The journey doesn't end just because the road is difficult. Thank God there is always another step to take. We can always choose a different path. And we can always strengthen each other along the way. This perspective from Torah, this perspective on life, helps us transform our assumptions into a positive outlook, the opportunity to see things anew, which is a lot of what it feels like we need right now as we enter into a new year. I'm praying for a happy and healthy 2021 for us and our community and our world. Let's transform it together. Shabbat Shalom.